I agree with much of what Liam said. I thought he did a very good job of explaining the trade-offs here. Look, no surprise really, right? Interest rates going up. Bad news if you're a borrower. Good news if you're a saver. I think the overall historical context there is important here. I mean, interest rates are still phenomenally low. The Bank of England is supposed to have just one job, really, and only one golf club in its whole set in order to meet that job and fulfill that job, and that's to keep inflation in a 2 to 3% band. Well, we have long since departed that band of inflation, partly because we've kept interest rates so low for so long. And in real terms, although we're talking about it being 1%, in real terms, they're minus 6 or 7%. If you're getting that interest rate, okay, you're getting a 1% return, but inflation is bearing down on your savings. So I think this is a very late and rather baby step, albeit in the right direction. And my judgment would be, and indeed my hope would be, that over the next 2 or 3 years, we get interest rates back to something like normal, which is typically that they should perhaps be 2 or 3% above inflation. We can't do that in one shock and awe move now. That would involve putting up interest rates to 10, 11% immediately. That would be a huge shock to the system. But that's definitely the direction of travel. I expect to see quarter point, half point rises pretty much every month for the next year or two.
And what does that mean for homeowners and then the wider economy? Because frankly, many people, particularly new homeowners, have got used to, I don't know a world without interest rates being as low as you say they have been. I mean, that will be a big shock to many homeowners who frankly might have bought homes they might not be able then to afford.
Yeah, that's conceivable, Darren, that's right. And that's why I think there's a case for taking this slow. I'm not being so hawkish as to say if the Bank of England were really to properly fulfil its remit, it should put interest rates up to about 10% right now. It needs to be a dial so people can adjust. But overall, and right the way back since the global financial crash, we've had an interest rate policy which has encouraged borrowing and consumption. Spend now and worry about it tomorrow. That is the message that low interest rates send, not just to consumers and families and households, but to the government as well, that is been able to borrow a lot of money. And we were told we were doing all of this to get us through the bad times of the financial crash. At some point, and my oh my, we're more than a decade on now, we do need to revert to normality, not with one short, sharp shock, but over the next 2 or 3 years to get interest rates somewhere to something approaching normal and viable. And the reason that matters so much for the economy, I'm not denying that it will mean that people with big mortgages are paying more on those mortgages. It will, so they will have less to spend in the shops. But we have been appalling in our treatment to savers over the past 10 or 15 years. And if you want to have a long-term strategy for the UK economy, you can't always just have cheap money to get you through the next year and encourage people to spend and buy houses. You need to encourage saving, which in turn leads to investment, which in turn leads to higher productivity. It's a longer path and some tough medicine, but that's the right way to go.
And just very finally and quickly, if you can, Mark, what do you think about, are we heading towards a recession? I mean, the economic outlook from the Bank of England is not great, and their forecasts have not necessarily also been great. Do you think it's a possibility, maybe even an inevitability?
It's certainly a possibility, Darren. We get very excited about whether we're in recession or not. And as Liam Halligan was explaining to you, the technical definition is 2 quarters of just below 0%. I guess that might happen. I'd put the chances of that at 50-50. But even if it doesn't happen, I think we need to reflect on how disappointing sluggish growth has been in the UK and the Western world. So even if we're ticking along at growth of 0.5%, 1%, we won't be in a recession. But that's colossally disappointing, and we need to do a lot more to improve our productivity to get back to not just avoiding recessions, but annual growth rates of 3 or 4%.